Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Hold on. You hold on here. Okay, Doug Stevenson, let's go. Let's go. Quick. Okay, can't have distractions like this during the radio time, man.
Absolutely typical. Always left to steer the show, pilot the ship, all by myself. Spaced Out Radio rocks.
Damn, Doug Stevenson interrupting a show like that. Oh, just no professionalism in him. No professionalism. Carlos, how are you? Welcome to our channel. Robert Garcia, good to see you back. Steve Wolf, thanks for coming on in. Carfunibre, and the gorgeous and talented Cryptid Huntress. Brown Dwarf, thanks for joining us. Rui, what's happening? Dim-de-dim. Almenial, what's happening? Thanks for coming on in. Natalie in the UK, good morning to you. Paradigma Theories, welcome to SOR Chat. The gorgeous Gloria, how are you? Steve K., welcome to the show. Eli, welcome back. The gorgeous Jen A., Robert Lamoth, Bigfoot Rob, good to see you guys. The gorgeous Dirt Road, John Slaymaker, welcome to SOR Chat. Everybody, I ran out of time. Do me a favor. Horns up. Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. Tim Seanor is here. He's going to join us to tell us about the Tictacs flying around Washington State. In Hour 3, we got a great story from Mr. Swamp Dweller and the fedora-wearing John Hudson. We'll be by with the latest in UFO news. Shirky Poo's got the news as well. Tim Seanor was an eyewitness to an event that took place on July 5th, 2019, at Rockaway Beach in Bainbridge Island, Washington. He was accompanied by his father, Donald, along with other family members, to witness an event that defies the norm, from Tic-Tac UFOs and much more. Tim is also a panelist on Disclosure Tonight Weekly with Thomas Fessler on YouTube, good friends of this show, where he helps discuss and debate all news surrounding UAP topics. Let's meet the man right now. Tim Seanor, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Thank you so much for joining us, my man.
Dave Scott, thank you so much for having me, buddy. It's so great to be on your show finally.
It is. It is. You've been a long-time fan, and, you know, I'll be honest with you, man. You're usually in our chat room as Anonymous Rex. I don't know if I'm supposed to give that up or not, but I guess it's too late. But
it's no secret.
But, I mean, I had no idea that you were working with our good friend Thomas Fessler and Disclosure Tonight, and you were coming into our chat room since about 2019 here. So, I mean, you're a man of secrets here. Secrets!
Not really. I mean, sort of, but not really. I put my life pretty much out there after I had this experience in 2019. I'm not in front of the camera guy. I'm actually a filmmaker, and I'm usually on the other side of the camera. And I was always a bad public speaker, funnily enough, and I didn't do well in acting classes in film school. I was much better at directing and writing and producing. And so this is really a step out of my comfort zone, being on camera and talking about a topic like this especially is really difficult because it's a topic filled with so many minefields, bud. it's a tough one.
It very much is. And, I got to tell you, being a radio guy, I have had a lot of troubles adjusting to being on YouTube. I mean, dude, look at this. This is not pretty. Okay? This is what you call a face for radio.
Oh, I disagree, buddy.
No.
I disagree. You style the chin candy, as I have coined it. You got to have a little something. You keep people interested in your face, for a little while. You shave it. You're a great host. Don't sell yourself short. You're a handsome guy.
That's why
Forget about it.
That's why I got to go like this every now and again, so that way I get the smaller picture, and you looking like Howie Mandel gets the bigger picture.
Right.
But the whole idea
I get that wrong.
But the whole idea behind it is this, this field, for some reason, it always morphs into pushing your uncomfortability with things. Like, you're not, you and me have in common. We're not comfortable being in front of cameras. We're trying to find out what's going on in this world with UFOs and UAP and whatever acronym you want to call it these days, because it's always changing. But for you, before this Bainbridge Island incident, did you believe in UFOs? Did you believe in the phenomena?
No, not in any way, shape, or form. I did have a book on it as a kid, and I remember kind of knowing a little bit about Area 51. I think, obviously I watched all of the cinematic films that came out in the 80s. Big Steven Spielberg fan. But again, this was just entertainment for me because I grew up in a family of scientists. And so being raised in upstate New York by two very conservative scientists with PhDs, I was looking up in the skies and explaining everything I was seeing pretty easily, from a very young age. And my mother was a science teacher, and so she would bring home a telescope that we had a flat roof, and I would go up there on clear nights and stargaze for hours. And so I was raised looking up in the sky and being totally comfortable knowing everything that was going on up there. So, no, not a believer in anything really paranormal. I've never seen a ghost that I'm aware of. Never had repeating dreams or anything strange before this happened. This was a slap in the face for me in 2019. The story that I'm going to relate to you guys, if you're not familiar with it, was a life-shaking moment. 2 minutes of my life that I'll never forget. And it was kind of, slow motion. I remember every detail, and I've remembered everything that's been in connection with this since.
We're going to get into that at the when we come back from break at the bottom of the hour. But I want to continue and get my audience to know you a little bit here. Coming from a family of scientists where you were always gazing up at the stars, and then you have this happen as an adult in life where you're supposed to be able to think and do things rationally. I'm very curious regarding, the change. You said it was 2 minutes that changed your life forever. I mean, it's hard to believe, that a whole 2 minutes, 120 seconds, can absolutely mind blow you and change your entire perspective of life. So fast forwarding here, how have you changed as a man, a father, a husband, a researcher? Explain you to me now.
Yeah, totally different. So it took me kind of a while to internalize what I'd seen. And it took a little time. So my entire family saw this. There was 9 family members that saw it. I've got some family in the background. You guys might be able to hear.
That's okay. Children and dogs are allowed on this show. And cats, of course.
Yeah.
I think once we had a bird.
That's great. So for me, I had pretty much formulated my career, and I was comfortable doing that. As a filmmaker, independent filmmaker, I hadn't really stretched into documentaries. at that point. And after this, I've been pretty focused on trying to capture data, if you want to just kind of call it that, as a wide net for now, on the UAP, and form a few documentaries or a series based on my findings and some of the interviews of people around hotspots. So that's affected my career greatly, because I've gone from doing, independent features and national commercials to just this. Of course, it did kind of coincide with my wanting to be a stay-at-home dad and be close to my folks who are up in Seattle, and I live in Oregon. So it fit kind of strangely enough into my plan. And, when I came home from this sighting, within a month, the public network that I work for right here in Salem reached out to me to do a UFO series. And this was right before COVID. So strangely enough, I got involved in a UFO show, and I never would have even considered doing that before. But I came at it with a totally different aspect and a different view, because I'd had this experience, and I think that it really helped that show a lot, actually. But my relationships have been affected a little bit too, because obviously my whole family saw this, and we talked about it, instantly. And I think we all, based on our background, so I've got some ex-military in my family, and, they were, everyone just kind of internalized the information differently, because it was definitely undeniable. And the photographs that I have kind of were the big question mark, because having something tangible, some evidence to back up what you've just seen, really brings it into light, where you can get data, metadata off of the photographs themselves, and then data from measuring what you can see in the photograph, and get real altitude and distances and speeds and things like that. So when my family all looked at this, they all kind of internalized it differently, and I think eventually put it into a box. We all were pretty sure this was undeniable. It was really fast speeds and things like that that made this a standout, something that we all saw in the sky very clearly.
Right.
And I think, like I said, each one of us internalized it very differently.
Absolutely.
Some of us, yeah.
I want to ask
some of us it really stuck with.
I want to ask you, on your personal quest, you hooked up with a great friend of ours on Spaced Out Radio, Thomas Fessler, in Disclosure Tonight, which does a program right before ours on YouTube. And we always tell all of our listeners, if you haven't subscribed to Thomas yet, go hit that subscribe button. It's very, very informative programming. And how did you hook up with Thomas, and what made you feel that you needed to expand your own daily horizons of this subject, where instead of looking at it from an outside perspective like you were as an experiencer, as most of our listeners who have seen UFOs have been, but you decided to take that leap to get into the live programming side with Thomas and Disclosure Tonight, and be a focal point of conversation. What happened there?
I'm terrible at typing, and I couldn't get my questions in quick enough, so I thought I'd just join the show. It'd be easier.
Really?
No, but kind of. In a way, I'm a really inquisitive person, and this has been something that has been gnawing at me since I had my experience. Initially, I wanted answers, like I thought I'd get a military answer or something pretty mundane from MUFON, and I'd be on my way with my life. But instead, I've got nothing but question marks, and this was considered within 5% of the unexplainable. So I was on a search for answers, and I visited your show, back in 2019, and I was throwing super chats up all the time. Love your show, loved all your guests, and loved the topic. Couldn't get enough, and it was all new to me. And for the first time ever, I was watching shows like yours and Thomas's, asking these questions in the chat from a real perspective where, I'd had a real experience that I needed answers for. And these were people that had those answers. I'm not looking for the big answer because nobody knows that. But there's a lot of little pieces that go into the puzzle. And I was starting to put them together. And I had no understanding of ancient astronauts. I had no understanding of current military incursions and how to figure out what I'm really looking at in the sky. And Thomas's show was one of those shows that kind of blended everything, a little bit of fun, which is important because, I got my start doing comedy, believe it or not. I was doing stand-up comedy in college. And
well, you are a Howie Mandel twin. So that's
yeah, I used to have really long hair and a ponytail, believe it or not. And that was my shtick.
Sure
I had a man bun before they were man buns.
Sure you did.
I don't know why I would admit that, but yeah. So Thomas's show really kind of resonated with me. And he, as a host, didn't take himself too seriously, which I think is important. He's a no-nonsense guy, and he's super intelligent, and he's really well-connected, which I didn't know before I met him. But that was just, a friend with benefits is a benefit, and I can't say that in any other way than he's a wonderful person. And if you, as you know, an incredible, confidant and friend. And so
he's a great
for me
talent.
To go on his show is more just a reciprocation of that friendship and an extension of that friendship. And the fact that I've gotten to talk with Rob and Greg O'Brien on such a regular basis, for me, has been the biggest journey. I've learned more from that group than any book, any movie, any experience. So, they're constantly asking the questions that I think everyone's asking and getting me to think outside of the box. And I think that's really important for us all to be doing, I would think. And so that's why I dedicated my time to him back, because he has dedicated so much of his time to me personally. And also it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's a fun topic. And every day I learn something new and my opinion changes, And
yeah.
That's why I do the show.
I can understand
I love inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally understand that and appreciate that. And Thomas and I became very good friends. I noticed the programming about 8-9 months ago, and I've been very, very pleased with the knowledge and the smarts that come out of that, and the panel with Rob and Greg and numerous other people that come on in and that Thomas has put together. I mean, it's a solid program, and you have to, if you want to move the ball forward, you need informative programming that has focus. Thomas's show is, for our listeners who don't know, it's a very much more, it's a laid back, very serious news type show. It's got a great focus. It's much different than what we do here. We're more into the woo. We're more into the storytelling and people's experiences, whereas they are much about the news of the day. What's going on? What are the hot button topics? And, when you can blend the two into a 5-hour performance in one night, people will all of a sudden say we're in cahoots or something like that, but we really aren't. It's just a respectable friendship between both shows that have great angles. But,
yeah.
But I mean, it works, man, and it works
Complements
well.
each other.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Thomas gave you that opportunity to join that, because otherwise, it's stories like yours, Tim, that get buried. Okay, I look at all of our audience members in our chat room, and I, as a host, have seen these names, some of them for 5-6 years, following us. I don't know their full story. I don't know why they're interested here. Some people want to talk about it. Other people just want to listen because they don't want to talk about their issues. You know what I'm saying? Or what they perceive to be issues. And this is what it all comes down to, is letting people know. I mean, you're a professional. You're a filmmaker. You're a documentarian, a television guy, a commercial guy. I mean, like you said before, this stuff isn't supposed to happen to people like you, Tim.
Right. Right. Or maybe it is. I came across a guy in the chat about a year ago, and we were, I think it was Disclosure Tonight, perhaps. We were on one of these chats, and he was in the chat, and he was like, I'm from Oregon. I'm like, I'm from Oregon. And his name is Terry Hall, and he's an out there UFO doctor. This guy lives in Oregon, and I think we met online in Germany or Denmark, something like that. Anyways, we have chuckles about that. Anyways, this is a relationship that I struck up where I met someone that was deeply understanding of what this is all about. And I was able to be completely honest with some of the experiences that I was having. And he helped me actually get really grounded and able to come on Thomas's show and things like that and talk about this. And he worked with me for, I think, 6 months, to get me to a place where I could even really fathom what was going on with me. Because it wasn't just affecting me, it's affecting family members, and I'm witnessing that too. So there's like elements of it that I kind of felt pressure to figure out. And so it's guidance that...
Built upon a solid foundation of cast iron and steel, the Kubota L-Series tractor is the #1 selling compact tractor in the U.S. for over 10 years. Powerful Kubota diesel engine, ease of operation, and your choice of a Kubota gear or HST transmission. The durable Kubota L-Series. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Parish Tractor, Kubota Elite Dealer. On the web at parishtractor.com.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
I have found online, I got to be honest with you, I've had an incredibly great online experience. I never had Twitter up until recently. I never did YouTube until 2019, like literally when I was investigating UFO. It was when I started getting on YouTube. I just didn't have time. But now I'm kind of wanting to put little blurbs out. If I find some footage that's interesting, I'm like trying to network that out and see what's out there. So I think there's a progression with an experience, Mm-hmm. Either you just totally let it go or it hangs with you.
No, and you're very right on that one. When you look at we got 2 minutes, by the way, before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Tim Seanor is our guest. Tim, when you look at the entire field of ufology, especially, being part of Disclosure Tonight, we're good friends here on this show as well. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, and there's a lot of ugly out there that are talking about this subject. Now, I don't want to get into the drama or anything like that because we try and stay away from that here. We let, other shows worry about what's happening around the world in a whiny way. But nonetheless, we try to keep an eye out. What do you like about this field, and what do you not like? We got about 90 seconds.
Yeah, I like the people. I like all the people and all the opinions and all the stories. And what I don't like is that I can't tell what's real and what isn't because I can't source very well. Everything sounds credible to me now that I've had my experience. So it takes help for me to be able to discern what, how I should source material, who should I really listen to? And I need to deeply think on some of the stuff that I want to believe and just make sure that I only believe the stuff that I can actually prove, which at this point is practically nothing. So I'm still open, but sourcing material, I think, is the downside personally, because there's a lot of garbage out there on the internet in the world.
Right. It's very tough. It's very tough. And you know what? You have to just try and, keep straight. And this is why, a number of months ago I said, you know what? We're going to start refocusing back on what's important to us, and that's our show. If there's drama or, other people want to talk bad about other shows, and there's a few of them out there that just go out there to slag nightly, we're not going to be a part of that. We're not going to take that road. Our audience doesn't need their time wasted with things like that. And you know what? I think it's made us better. I really do think it's made us better. Tim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Tim Seanor is here from Disclosure Tonight on Thomas Fessler's channel. And we're going to get into his amazing sighting of a Tictac back in 2019 on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. And hello, Simply Coco. You are looking lovely tonight. Could you please give us an update on what your drink of the night is for tonight's show? We would appreciate that. Thank you very much, beautiful. And I'm going to guess sangria tonight. It's a Friday night. I'm going to guess sangria. Good start, Tim. Good, solid start.
It's so hard to talk about myself. I'm so not interested in me, really. But you know what? The sighting is awesome. And so that's really why I came out, in the beginning, because it's just so awesome. You got a lot of friends in the chat.
Oh,
you got a great chat audience, by the way.
Tonight is busy.
I've noticed.
Yeah, tonight is busy. I'll tell you, earlier this week, I don't know if you caught it or not, but we did an amazing show with Jimmy Church on Monday night.
I did.
And we did
catch that.
Yeah, we did a simulcast where I was on his show, and then when his show ended, or we simulcasted together for 1 hour, and then we went over to his show, or he came over to us for another hour, and it was the first time we did that. And there's a lot of his listeners that are in here tonight who are like, hey, didn't know that this was afterwards, and now they're listening. Yeah. So it was wonderful, and we welcome them all. We welcome everybody here.
Jimmy's show is another one that was one of the ones that I started watching pretty regularly, obviously. Incredible guests. And Jimmy's got that voice, man. How can you not love Jimmy Church? Come on.
Oh, I know. That voice is golden.
Classic.
That voice is golden. Yeah. Hello, gorgeous Alicia Carey Wyatt down in Texas. Evan Walters, welcome back. And who else has... come on in here. Yeah, that was fantastic. And so I've noticed that there's a lot more of his listeners coming on in here because Friday night he doesn't broadcast. So now they're like, wow, hey, Jimmy's not on Friday night. Now we have something to listen to. And, it's really kind of cool. Hi, Margie O. How are you? And Mennonite Abe, you can't see me. That's right, because I'm wearing camouflage. That's right. Like here's Rafin. I'm a new fan because of Jimmy. I mean, that's a perfect example. And Jimmy, when I was on his show, he said something, he asked a real important question right off the bat. He's like, you're kind of competition to me, and we kind of overlap that 1 hour. He goes, but, everybody wants people in this field not to like each other. And we both kind of had this conversation, like, why does it have to be that way? You know what I'm saying? Why does it have to...
I didn't get that. When I first got into this and I was watching Unidentified Celebrity Review and the first Big Phone Home and all of his work, I saw a bunch of people united. And this is kind of when I was first starting to watch, and I was like, this is awesome. So when I saw you on there, and I think, wasn't Jimmy on there? I think he was. There was just like a gathering of people. Like I saw everyone united through that, and I thought that was amazing. That was some great work that Lou did there, and I think that's what we need more of. And so it surprises me to hear you say that, because your interview with him was great, and what a wealth of knowledge he is.
Yes,
Jimmy is Jimmy is a true rock star in this field.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And God, he's got that voice. Oh,
Yeah, and the hair.
I'm not, I think I got him on the hair. I mean, his is a nicer color than mine, but I got him on the hair. Okay.
Well, he has hair. I mean, I've got none, so I'd take a brown bag on my head at this point.
Yeah. You got the...
People actually... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, people bust my chops a little about my hair, and they're like, was it hard losing your hair? And I was like, I never lost it. It's actually in a brown bag. I keep it under my sink, and I wear it at parties.
Nice. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. And let's see here. I want to say a big thank you to Sally, Samantha, Carlito, Doug, Thomas, and Heidi for the amazing Super Chats tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Thank you to all our new listeners who've hit subscribe and rang that bell. We really appreciate it. And, of course, to all the veterans out there who are tuning us on in, we love you. Thank you so much for doing what you do on a daily basis. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in and us earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, we're going to learn the story of Tim Seanor. You may recognize Tim if you're a fan of Thomas Fessler's Disclosure Tonight, where often during the week Tim is a panelist, but he's also a UAP experiencer. This is a man who in 2019, previous, did not believe in UFOs. He thought the whole thing was garbage. He thought it was a bunch of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists who worked the night shift at 7-Eleven who were making up all of these sightings and stories until July of 2019, where he's on a family vacation at Bainbridge Island, Washington State. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, let's go back in time, 2.5 years. Bainbridge Island, You're meeting all of your family in Washington State. Tell us about the day leading up to this. Why were you there?
Okay. So my parents have a house on Bainbridge Island, a gorgeous house that overlooks the Puget Sound directly across from Seattle, like literally directly across from Seattle. A quick 2-minute walk down to a little beach called Rockaway, and you just have the Puget Sound in front of you. So a really beautiful part of the world. And my folks have had a house there for going on 20 years now. So they're pretty familiar with the area and definitely familiar with the skies and things like that and the air traffic and stuff like that. So, in fact, they have big bay windows that look out across the water. And so you're always seeing the air traffic and everything. You can see the stadium. It's a gorgeous part of the world. I love Seattle. And, of course, the ferries that cross there at night that are all lit up and things like that. So you get very familiar with the area when you're living there. So this was July 5th of 2019, and it was around 2:00 in the afternoon, and my whole family was up celebrating because it was my birthday. My birthday is July 6th. And so we were all together celebrating that. We do it every year. So anyways, the whole family decided to go down to the beach because it was the lowest tide of the year also. And this was a big reason why they were all down there, because you were able to scavenge along the beaches much further out than you usually are. So you can get big shells, and you can get to a cave that usually you can't get to, and things like that. Or at least you can get there, but you'd get wet. So the family decided to go down there ahead, leaving behind myself and my wife and my middle son of 5 kids. So he was the second oldest. He decided to stay back at the house with me and my wife. My mom and dad drove in their vehicle, and my sister, they took vehicles down there because of the size of the family, and my little ones like to get changed sometimes right after. Anyways, they took 2 vehicles down there. And they went ahead and started scavenging on the beach for a little while. Around 2:05, I think it was, I decided I would go down to the beach to kind of help collect the family. And my parents are both in their 80s, so I just like to kind of be there to help them whenever they're out of the house, if I can be there. So I drove my truck down so that I could kind of pile people in if I needed to, and hopped out of my vehicle and walked along the edge of the water where the Puget Sound would be on my left and a little ridge with some seating would be on my right, where my parents were seated up on a little ridge, and the rest of the family was actually just making their way up the beach, which is a rocky beach. They were making their way up towards me as I was approaching.
Okay, so here you are, getting ready to spend a day with the family, birthday celebrations, nothing like this on your mind. How long after you made it to the beach did you start noticing something odd?
So as I approached my parents, my mom was kind of fixated up into the sky, and she pointed up over my shoulder and said, "Did you hear that?" And I was kind of like, no, I didn't hear anything. I looked up towards where she was pointing and didn't quite look at what she was looking at that moment. And I was like, no, I didn't hear anything. And right as I said that, my sister's oldest son pointed up into the air and said, "Oh, look, a saucer." Like,
really?
Yelled it and pointed directly up at this thing. So that directed my attention, obviously, directly. All of us looked up to where he was pointing, and it looked like a silver disc was hovering in the sky above us, silent. So that was kind of like a whoa moment, because you're like running through the gamut of what it could be. And you're like, it does look like a disc. And so I reached for my phone, because that's the filmmaker in me. I'm going to grab a video or pictures, and I didn't have it on me. And so I realized that and was like, boom, I'm scampering back to my truck, about 50 meters to go and grab my phone off the dash. And I scamper back to the area where my folks were, just right to the position where I was, and lifted my phone up. And I couldn't see the disc at the time, but I snapped a photo off at the cloud that I remembered it being by, if that makes any sense. So, and that's actually going to correlate to photo 1 that I have here. If you want to display those at some point.
Let me just pull them up here, because they are pretty incredible here. And I do want people to understand what we're talking about and what we are getting at the same time. So for our radio fans, Tim actually captured pictures of this phenomena here. So, Tim, what are we looking at here?
That is the disc, a blurry, unfortunately, photo of the disc. It wasn't static by the time I was taking pictures of it. It was kind of moving in more like, it's kind of hard. This is going to come up. How it moves is kind of odd. It like disappears and reappears. And so it was kind of moving away from me a little bit, and it would disappear and reappear, and I would snap this photo, and it would kind of be moving away and then disappear, and then it would reappear, slowly kind of moving away, and then it would be like over there. And so I was just kind of like taking wide shots of the clouds that I would see it near, is the best way I can explain it at the time, because it was small. Right at the time that I took this photograph with my naked eye, I noticed what looked like a little sparkle or a spark kind of emanating from it, is what I thought at the time. And it would be kind of at the 1 o'clock position, then it would be at 9 o'clock, and then it would, kind of fizzle, and then it would be suddenly down at 6 o'clock, and then it'd be up at midnight, just kind of hovering around the disc itself. It was really odd to see with the naked eye. And the best way I can describe it, and this is actually my mother's description, was it acted like a hummingbird gathering nectar from a flower. How it would hover here and then suddenly dart over to here, and then it'd be like over there, around the disc. So in the photographs, I determined that to be the Tictac. But at the time, I didn't see that.
Were you facing north, west, east, south at this time?
So this photograph is from Rockaway Beach, facing east towards Seattle, a little south.
All right. So for our radio listeners, it's a cloudy day with little patches of blue sky, typical of the West Coast, where it is rainforest. There is a small mountain area that is filled with houses across the bay, and up in the sky there happens to be this weird, blurry little disc-like tic-tac in the sky that has two black dots under it. I mean, those little black dots, were they actually on the craft, or were they actually maybe the propulsion system giving off energy from the craft?
Yeah, it just looked like a solid silver disc to me at the time. And it was really hard to even see it with my naked eye as it was moving away. Because like I said, it was tricking my eye. It would disappear and reappear somewhere else. So it was really hard to gather, like a photograph. These were pretty wide just because I was not knowing where it was going to show up next. It moved kind of like a dash across the sky. You know what I mean? And in fact, in one of my photos I have here, there's absolutely nothing in the frame, where it seems like the object, like even though I know it was there because I could see it when I took the picture, it wasn't in the image anywhere. And I scanned these images and put them through quite a few little techniques to bring out all of the image.
Well, let's go to photograph number 2 here, because here you can actually see it in the main photograph.
And it looks like it's got
I'm not gonna,
like a haze around it.
I'm not going to lie. It looks like an 80s ghetto blaster in the sky. It does. With the black dots being the speakers. I'm waiting for some Michael Jackson Beat It to come out of it.
Honestly, to me, it also looks like photos of birds. Like it could be I don't even know if this image, honestly, or any of them are of the actual saucer that I saw. Because the saucer that I saw didn't appear to have any portholes. It definitely had a sparkle around it, and I have great photos of the Tic-Tac and what the Tic-Tac does, but I only captured 2 photos where I'm pretty sure it's actually the saucer. That's not how it really looks when you're in person. It's so blurry, and the way it images is not the way.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
It appeared to the naked eye at all. And this is also part of what my family struggled with, because some of them were like, that doesn't even look like what we saw. And I'm like, I know, like, what is going on in the photos? What is up with the imagery that it captures it like this? A lot of questions, but very odd looking, and the way it moved in the sky was also very hard to capture. Honestly, I was pretty wide on a lot of these shots. With a cell phone, by the way. I captured it with an iPhone 10.
When you say moving weird, is it like what we see on TV where to me, UFOs on TV look so fake because you never know if it's the camera person who is like moving all of a sudden like this and the right. image is straight and then like this or like this or like this, moving their arms straight around because they're nervous and they're fumbling and bumbling. Or is it like one of those things where all of a sudden, it just makes these weird movements where one moment it's here, the next minute it's over there, and next minute it's over here, and you don't know how it really got there, but it had to move over there.
Right. In my best description, it would be like watching 35 millimeter film, but only getting to see one of every 30 frames. You know what I mean? Like suddenly it's here, and now it's there, and you're only visually capturing it every once in a while. And it's not that far away, and yet it's really hard to photograph. And I had actually shot video, and there was nothing in the video. I couldn't see, and I discarded it. I actually still have it, but it was worthless. There was only a couple of seconds of it because I went back to going to HDR film or photos.
Wow. Okay, so here you are. I mean, it looks like it's hovering right above the middle of the bay. I mean, obviously, you're not going to know if anybody across the bay is looking at this, but were there other people besides you looking at this craft?
So, as far as I know, it was just my 9 family members. I did report it to MUFON and then eventually to another national UFO reporting agency. And I can't remember. I think that's it. National UFO Reporting Agency. And with the aid of MUFON, I think there were some corroborating sightings, but not on the same day. So other people had seen Tic-Tacs around. And so another important fact is if this is a shot pointing east, if you went directly west about 20 miles, you would come up on a nuclear sub base. So I didn't know really that at the time of this. I wasn't putting those two things together, but now I know Bangor military base is a big submarine base there where they actually do a lot of testing of new things as well. But they have hundreds of nukes right there. And so if there was something going to be curious, it wouldn't surprise me that it would pop up right here. And at this point, I mean, we're just talking about saucers and a little Tic-Tac that you haven't even seen in any photos. But this case gets far more interesting and the photos get much more intense as the story goes. Because if I had just seen this and photographed this, you and I would never have met, Dave. There's no way I would have gone public with a few photos that I wasn't even really sure of, because of the way that thing was moving. I don't know if I captured that saucer moving at any point. I can't, I don't know. I could be convinced of anything. MUFON is convinced this is all UAP, but it takes a little more than that. Even experiencing this for me to say UAP, I'm a very neutral person, even having this experience and everything after. I'm really trying to stay neutral. So,
I think that's fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Tim. I mean, you want answers to something strange in the sky that you witnessed, that you photographed, that your family of scientists witnessed, and you're trying not to get too high on it. You're trying not to be too low on it, but you just want to know, but here's the thing that always worries me about a place like Washington State, and that is Boeing Field. And there's a bunch of little hidden runways around Washington State that Boeing has where sometimes they test out some things over those areas. Did you think about that going through?
Big time. Big time. In fact, that was my dad's first reaction. And he was like, if you're going to do anything, you need to report it and make sure that the agency that you report it to makes sure that you're not disclosing military secrets. Because we are all patriots. My parents were the first of our family to come over from England, but we are all Americans. And I would never do anything to disclose potential secrets, whether it's private or military. That's not my agenda in any way. And I would have been happy to delete these and said it was something mundane. But yeah, I was pretty convinced by what I'd seen. It was nothing mundane. So once MUFON confirmed it, it was a little bit easier to swallow the UAP pill, for my whole family, I guess, even.
Well, let's go to photograph number 3 here. And
sure.
This is still in the same area. How long? Now, looking at this craft, it almost looks like it's morphed into a bell shape.
Yeah. Again, to the naked eye, it never really changed its shape, but I just think that this was my camera's best job at capturing this thing on the move, because it would be there and then suddenly it would be like a little bit further along. And like I said, I have some photos in this series that are completely blank where, this object is just not in phase with my camera, I guess, and that's kind of how, I've hypothesized it. If this was a bird, it would have been in all of the photographs, which is a bummer because I was like, maybe this is a bird. I've seen a lot of people, and Mick West is out there showing images of birds, and I'm like, boy, my shot looks like a bird, but so does a saucer. Like, again, so does an actual saucer. So again, even living it, I'm trying to debunk my own work, and I'm having a hard time debunking it ultimately. And this is why I present everything the way I do. And I love it when audiences are hard on it, because I'm pretty hard on it too. But yes, in this image, I do. This was right where it was skirting across the sky. And so this is actually a perfect time to get back to the story, because right around this time, and let's see. The next photograph is actually in quick succession, and it shows nothing. It's completely blank, right? And right around this time, my dad chimes in and says, well, what's this now down here? And he was pointing much further down south, so further right in our purview. And he was pointing to something else, which I later would find out was the Tictac that was hovering around this disc. And I would learn that by my photos.
Hold on a second here. Now you have 2 craft in the sky.
Well, what you're seeing here, and this is how my father was attracted to it, was that white square you're seeing in the foreground is actually what the Tic-Tac was doing. So this Tic-Tac stopped in the sky, and this is where your audience is going to have to kind of put your belief on one side and just kind of take this story as we saw it, because that's kind of how I'm going to tell it to you, just how I saw it. I know it's hard to believe. It's hard for me to believe too. This little object, this white cigar, Tic-Tac shaped object, stopped dead in the sky, fired a visible beam that opened what looked like a net at the time, a bright light net of white that formed into a 3-dimensional white box.
What?
Of which an object either entered or exited. and I couldn't tell which at the time.
You got to be kidding me.
No, my whole family saw it.
So it
And I
shoots
got
out
photos of it.
this tractor beam that looks like it opens up a portal in the sky of white light.
Yeah, really, really incredible white light.
No way.
And we can talk more about that a little bit later, because this actually stayed open for quite a little bit of time. And it was kind of hard to tell if things were passing in or out. It was a little bit mesmerizing.
Is this
That's
the photograph
and
here?
So,
So for our
that
radio,
is it wide open.
we got less than a minute here. For our radio audience, what are we looking at here?
That is the white cube with an aura of dark space kind of around it by appearance, and also by visual appearance. It looked like a black dot with a very white, bright, square 3D cube, in fact, of light in the center. And we were all staring deeply into that light for, I would say, this was a 2-minute long experience, right? And of which the last minute we would probably were looking into this light. I mean, a full minute of this thing just open, you know? And
Tim,
that's the big moment.
hold it right there. We're going to come back. Portals in the sky, Tic-Tacs, UFOs over Washington's Bainbridge Island. I don't know how to explain this. Never seen it, and it's caught on film. Tim Seanor is going to describe it more in hour 2 next on Spaced Out Radio. Dude, I had no clue. I am blown away right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It would change your life too, buddy. If you saw it with your family.
Oh, yeah.
Your dad's a PhD, and he's like, you need to make sure this isn't military. I mean, like the conversations we were having over the dinner table, bud.
I'll be right back, brother.
Tough.
I'll be right back.
Right.
Got to hit the loo.
Do you mind if I do the same?
Yeah, we got about 5.5 minutes, okay? Be right back, audience.
Beautiful. I guess I could say hi to Dave's audience. Hi, Michael Legere. Thanks for showing up. Natalie UK, how's it going? Jenny Whitebear, what's going on? Jeff Gear, cool. Pam Smith. Lunar Sparkles 1, how's it going? John Music is out there too. What's going on, John? Mystic K. Right on, Paul Holland from Australia. Very cool. Yeah, the pictures are awesome, you guys. They're out there, and I will also share the MUFON case number so you guys can go and review it at some point if you'd like. And I got to shout out to MUFON because MUFON Washington State really were awesome. Helped me come to terms with it and talked me through a lot of the stuff that I was trying to think was mundane. They were like, this isn't mundane, and explained why. Terry Hall, what's up, brother? My UFO doctor. He's in the chat. Great to see you, buddy. Pam Harris and Carlos, what's up? Diesel Girl.
How you doing, buddy? Sorry about that.
No, I'm just saying hi to your audience. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just saying what's up.
This is a fun show, man.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I'm having a blast.
Me too, man.
Plus, you own the night. I mean, how can you compete with that?
Well, I do put my pants on one leg at a time.
I was thinking you jumped right off your bed, right into it.
I tried that once. I fell.
I think we all have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got a great show over here.
Thank you.
You really do, man.
Thank you.
And I have to thank you really quickly for what you do, because you make this topic a little more fun to talk about, too. You get great guests, and you always push the boundaries, right? I love that.
I want to quickly say a big thank you to Sally, Samantha, Carlito, Doug, Thomas, and Heidi for the amazing super chats tonight. It is a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much for the love. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all the new listeners who are tuning us in right now. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell. We are just less than 160 away from 16,000 subscribers. We'd greatly appreciate hitting that number. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning in. We love you. You always have a safe place here in our chat room. Let's do hour number 2 right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Let's rock hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live. Odyssey Radio, our brand new affiliate, which also plays live on iHeartRadio and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Quahog. Quahog is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. What a story we are hearing tonight. Now, if you haven't heard of Tim Seanor, he is a panelist for a great show on YouTube called Disclosure Tonight by Thomas Fessler, which happens way before Spaced Out Radio, or each night right before Spaced Out Radio on YouTube. And with this, he is talking about this amazing Tictac experience that he had in Washington State back in 2019. Him and his family, a family of scientists, are the ones looking into this, and they can't figure out what is going on. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Yes, scientists and military personnel. Two of them are ex-military, high-ranking too. So
really,
yeah,
that is very, very cool. And I'm just going to bring it up here a little bit here once again, because I want to break down right before the break. On our YouTube side, for our radio audience, Tim actually took photographs of this craft. It started off as one craft, then another, this Tic-Tac type object, joined the second craft, and it opened up this rectangular white light that is almost like a portal in the sky. And, I mean, Tim, all of this happens in 2 minutes. How did you just keep grabbing photos?
Funny you should ask, because I actually had to remind myself. A lot of time did take place. There was a lot of breaths and staring into that, being mesmerized, basically. I did have to remind myself to take photographs. And I actually missed them leaving properly because I was watching them instead of taking photos. But it was also really hard to capture with the camera because of the way they were moving, and I was really photographing the clouds up until the Tic-Tac opened up the portal. And it's hard to say Tic-Tac and portal, but we'll use that for now for vernacular's sake.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is going through your mind at this point while you're photographing this? I know the scientific mind of you want to capture this. You want to see what's going on. But at any time, were you a little bit skittish, a little bit timid, a little bit freaked out?
Yeah, so at the time, I was kind of blank and just mesmerized. I don't remember having a feeling at that time. There was kind of like this takeaway feeling that I couldn't shake, and we can get to that maybe a little bit later. So there was like a little bit of a takeaway. At the time, like I said, I don't recall having like any real emotion attached to what was going on. I was pretty neutral. I can describe, I guess, it just felt like it's hard to kind of say flood. It was just like a flood of nothing. Like I was just blown away by nothing. I was completely just open at that moment, just staring, mesmerized at what I was looking at. And when I did finally break my gaze to take a photograph, I noticed every family member doing exactly what I was doing, which was just standing stupefied. And I do remember seeing, my younger ones doing the same thing. And so, at the time they were, like 6 and 8. And so, they obviously had an interpretation of what they saw as well, and then they saw our family talking about it. So, but at no point did we ever say UFO or aliens around our dinner table at any point. And that just kind of goes to show the group that witnessed this. That was not really even in the discussion. And even at the time, I wasn't thinking UFO. I don't know. I wasn't thinking anything. We were all just like, what is this? And I mean, I'm still not saying UFO or aliens. I don't know what I'm not saying portal. I'm not saying, I have said these things because I have no other vernacular for it. And it is what I saw. But it's just such a leap, and it's a tough one. So yeah, good question.
All right,
what was I thinking when I was looking at that?
I got a question from Game Vet here, who is asking: at any point did you see a mist, fog, or objects around it? Or pardon me, I misquoted that. See a mist or fog around the objects.
Like I said, there was like a visible kind of haze to it, but the brightness and here's the thing, it was a well-defined cube. Like, it's hard to describe it. The photos don't really do it justice, because there was like depth to it, but it also had end points and like hard lines. And the way the Tictac was just there, and then like the line came out of it, like a beam, and then that beam at the end opened up into that shape that you see there. And then that just hung there, motionless, practically motionless. There was a slight drift that MUFON found, but not much. And, it was over quite a bit of time, and there was a headwind and like all kinds. I mean, there was no way, if this was balloons or anything mundane, it would have been able to hold there without it becoming obvious what it was very quickly. The Tic-Tac is actually holding the beam at this point, and in the next photograph, you can perhaps kind of see it. It's there the whole time. It just kind of moves a little further away. This is when it's recoiling it. So it finally does basically the opposite of what it had done to open this cube of light, and recoiled it back up into the Tic-Tac. At this point, I had noticed that there were more objects than there were before. I'd only seen visually one saucer before and the Tic-Tac, but now I could see that there were more dark shapes around it. Got one photo, and then they scuttled off, and I mean scuttled by like here, there, like in that same flight pattern as before, where it would appear to disappear and reappear in its propulsion. Like, it wasn't like flying, it was disappearing, reappearing, disappearing, reappearing very quickly away. And so in that group of objects, I believe there's still a saucer, the Tic-Tac, and then what looks like a pyramid.
My goodness.
A small pyramid.
My goodness.
And so this took place 10 days before the Omaha, I think, had its reported sighting about 1,000 miles away down in the islands there off California. Which, when that came out, that was also another reason why I wanted my story to come out, because this is literally days before that sighting. And I'm not saying that this pyramid that you see here is the same pyramids that we saw in that footage from Jeremy Corbell, because who knows if this is a pyramid or if those were pyramids or what. But visually, it looked like that to us here. And it coincidentally happened, again, 10 days later. So we have that. That was another piece of evidence that kind of swayed me to thinking this was potentially UAP. It's a tough one, for me to say that now a pyramid's there with this saucer and a Tic-Tac. It's a tough story to say out loud to a serious audience. But that is what we saw, and that is what I demonstrated with my photos, and we tried to get some corroborating math and things when we interviewed with the STAR team, I believe it is, with MUFON. I worked with Maureen Morgan, who is, I believe, the director for Washington State. But other states got involved because I live in Oregon, so they were collaborating. There was a lot of collaboration going on, and everyone in MUFON was incredibly helpful. I can definitely say my experience with them was great. It wasn't timely; like I wanted it quicker back then, but they eventually came out with great data that proved what I saw was moving really quickly.
Right.
It proved that it wasn't a fake photo and all of that good stuff, and it wasn't military and things like that.
I have a question from Lavira, who is asking, Tim, how big was the original craft before you were able to take pictures?
Right. So before I ran back to my truck when it was closest, if I held a dime at arm's length, that's about right, a dime at arm's length. So pretty close.
That is still a pretty big object, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like right kind of up and over our shoulder. Oh, well, here's another part, actually, that reminds me that's important, because initially we may never have seen this if it didn't make a sound, right, that my mother heard. And so I want to talk about that sound because it's actually important. And I actually left it out of part of the story. There's a lot of nuance to the story, and
was it a bang? Was it a humming sound? Was it a buzzing? Tell me about it.
So my parents had a great description, and I have mine, and it's really all very similar. And so I'm just going to give you that. Basically, what it sounded like was pretty loudly, and it could have been, considered a quiet thunder, but rather than rolling thunder, it sounded more like the expansion of a balloon without the air. If you can't hear somebody blowing into a balloon, but you can hear the rubber expanding, that sound that makes?
Yes.
That, but in the sky. And so here's the other thing. When my dad saw the light, I heard that sound again. And so our interpretation was that the sound of that thing opening, it was the sound of the portal, if you want to call it that, opening. And so when my mom had seen something and been attracted up into the sky, potentially, it had just opened. I don't know, but it definitely made that sound. That I heard that sound the second time, but not the first time. But when she described what she heard the first time, it sounded, her description matched what I heard, if that makes sense. So I'm assuming it happened twice. And the sound, like I said, is like that sound of elastic, the rubber in a balloon expanding, like that, but on a thunder level.
Outside of MUFON and who you had investigate this, the UFO community can be very fickle with photographic evidence. Have you taken a lot of negativity towards these photos, or have you found the UFO community being very open towards it?
Yeah, everyone's completely open to it. I think that it's more convincing to some and less to others. Other people can breeze by this case. Other people get really stuck into it. I did a couple of interviews, and I've done a TV show on it, and I've talked to Preston Dennett and like a lot of important people about it, and it's interesting. And I think that it's a little piece to the puzzle, Do I get flack? No, I don't get flack. I don't surround myself by that, and I wouldn't notice it if I was getting negativity. Here's the thing. If there was somebody with something potential, I'm 100% open. And in fact, when people came out of the woodwork to help debunk this, I didn't look at that as negativity at all. People came up with all these ideas, and I was like, could it be that? I don't see anyone's opinion as a negative thing at all, and I'm not sold on it, so you can't hurt my feelings, right? You could tell me this is all something else, and I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm with you. Like, and tomorrow I might think something else. But I gotta say, how it moved changed my life. And seeing into that light and the experience that I've had since looking into that light, which I'll talk more about a little bit if you like,
Sure,
has changed my family's life. So,
well, I want to get this question in from Wiruna first, who is asking, is this corroborated outside of your family? If not, do you have a theory why not?
corroborated in what way? Like by other witnesses?
Yeah.
You would think there would be other witnesses. Yeah, you would think there would be other witnesses. And that's why I was like coming out with it, filing a report, trying to get it out there, talking to you guys, doing Thomas's show, searching for other witnesses. Like, if you remember when I first was in your chat, Bud, I would blast your audience with, what's your opinion of the Bainbridge Island Tictac? That was me, Anonymous Rex. I'm not anonymous. I go by my real name, but that's my tag, right? And everyone knows that I'm Anonymous Rex. In fact, my icon is right there on these photos.
It looks like you, by the way, your icon.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I never got any... No one else witnessed this at the same time, unfortunately. So, do I have a theory why not? Because of how it moved. And, like, I don't know if someone else would have viewed this thing as a 3D cube, or if it had been just from my angle, if it had just looked like nothing. I don't know why. It's a great question. I wish there was someone else looking up at the same time as me. And here's the other thing. Do I wish this happened? No. I would love to still be living in the box that I lived in, because this has not been career enhancing, as you've heard before. It's not. I don't want to make money with this either, really. If somebody likes my work and I can get it out there, that's really all I'm trying to do on this topic. I'm not somebody that needs a job, so I'm able to do this just altruistically. And I'm really looking for answers. And I surround myself with like-minded people that some have made their minds up on things and some haven't. I'm right down there on the middle, even after having this experience, just seeking the truth, really.
George would like to know, did you have any after effects like contact or dreams?
Big time. So that's like it, George. Yeah. And so family members and myself have all had the same repeating dream, where it's not just once in a while, it's every night. It's not so much a repeating dream as a repeating location, which I definitely don't want to talk too much about. But there was a time when I couldn't even talk about this at all, and I've made huge strides personally being able to talk about this aspect, and hashtag Terry Hall here and hashtag Thomas Fessler, because without their help, I wouldn't be able to even talk really about this aspect of it. But I'm not saying that this is linked, but the very next day, I started having a dream about a location that I've never been to, and going through a situation there. So yes, every single night since then, I've had a dream that I recall 100% in the morning. I have a few notebooks of drawings and notes, and they're all relative to the same place. And I try not to talk too much about that place, because I'm wondering if other people are having that same contact dream place. But I can tell you my family members definitely do. And I haven't cued them or anything. They would just tell me, and, military family members, where they didn't even know that they were having this as a result, potentially, of us seeing this. They were just telling me that they've been having this going on. And they're like, I never used to dream, and now I have one every night, and it lasts like X amount of time, and total recall from it. And I'm like, what have you been doing with that information? And she's like, nothing. Sorry, I shouldn't even say he or she, because these people want to remain anonymous, even though they are my family members. It's not hard to find out who they are. they're not super comfortable. They'll never want to talk about it, because it is a little bit heavy duty. Yeah.
Well, let's get into that, because obviously this has affected your family in many different ways, and as it should. Everybody's going to have a different reaction to absolutely everything regarding the entire phenomena and the situation that happened. You seem to be a little bit more emotionally involved, whereas many of your family members have kind of pushed it to the side, whether it's the scientific career, the military career, or anything along those lines. How has this become a point of frustration in you wanting to have conversation about this?
Yeah, I stopped really trying to talk about it quickly after, when I saw everyone kind of struggling with it. And once I realized that it was something real, I thought at some point I may want to circle back and document this somehow, and I didn't want to muddy it by talking too much about it. So I have done things like have a Zoom call with my mom and talk about it and film that and then ask for her permission to use it, and things like that. But I can't, I try not to feed any information to them, so I try to do it very neutral. I'll just bring up the day and ask kind of like an opinion, very general, and let them talk about it. But it is frustrating because I think that to have crossed it off as being mundane, or just even accepting it as being UAP and then just being meh, and that's that just doesn't sync with me, because it's such a big message, right? The potential is such a big, big message. And I was like, well, this inspires me to know more. And I see a lot of other people that, are into this, and they are smart people, and they've had real experiences, or they're in the know, and I think that's the group that I needed to engage with if I expected to move my personal health, my mental health, my story forward, and it's all syncing up, things just strangely sync up. And so noticing the synchronicities in my life and inspiring everyone around me has kept me going.
You hold on right there. We are going to continue with Tim Seanor's story. We got him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. How a UFO sighting can affect your life. 2 minutes to change your world on Spaced Out Radio next. All right. Hi, Michael Fontaine. How you doing? Welcome back. Solaire, welcome back. Sabrina, I'll get to your question after the break. This is a fantastic show, Tim. Really is. Thank you for sharing it with us, man.
Thanks for having me, bud. I love your show. I owe you this, at least, for all the hours of pleasure you've given me. So it's payback for sure, at least.
Well, you know what? I deserve that. No, I'm teasing.
You do, man. If I could high five you, give you some bump love
right there,
now.
Right
yeah.
There, there.
Boom.
Boom.
Much love, brother.
You got that right.
Thanks for having me on. And it's therapeutic to talk about. I don't talk about this at all unless I'm being interviewed. So it's one of those things. Plus, you get connected to your experiences, right? And I'm sure it can draw out some emotion in you too, right?
You know what I like? I like with my experiences, I like it when they go a little rogue. It intrigues me. And what I mean by that is...
Please tell more, yeah.
Well, like I was having... I'll give you an example. I have had a number, not a lot, maybe 5 or 6 times where I've been having conversations, and people who are in tune will understand what I'm saying. When you are talking to somebody else who is in tune, even if they don't know it, it enhances your ability to see and feel things. And I have literally been in
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Conversations where I know that conversation is being remote viewed. And I have actually picked up on remote viewers and have talked to them. Kind of like, hey, I see you. I know what you look like. I know where you're standing right now. I know you're listening in. You don't have permission to be here, right? And it's the funnest thing, man. It really is.
That sounds really intense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would recognize that. I wonder if it happens to a lot of us and we're just not in tune enough to recognize that. It probably happens all the time, right?
Well, it happened to me last Sunday when I was talking to somebody who is very high up in the UFO world. And I picked up on somebody listening in on the conversation. I had it happen with Bob McGuire, where there was a gentleman in my yard, and there was one, I've never seen Bob's house, and I'm like, hey, Bob, are you standing by a big bay window, and in behind that bay window, is there a tree there? A big tree. He goes, yeah, and it was dark out. I said, turn around slowly and tell me if you see a shadow by that tree, or if you see anything by that tree. And he goes, I see a shadow. And I said, that's a remote viewer who's watching you right now. Wow. It was very cool. Wow. Very cool.
What's your theory on that? How is that possible if there's a shadow there? What do you think that shadow is?
I don't know. I will tell you this. The person who I spoke to, claimed in conversations with people, give me 1 second. Trying to do too much at once. The person who I was talking to asked one of his colleagues, I have to be careful here, about remote viewing. And because he had seen a shadow person and was told that remote viewers sometimes appear as shadow people.
Do you think that's potentially what Adrian Reister saw?
Possibly. Now, I mean, I didn't put two and two together up until that point, but could have very well been. We got 15 seconds. Big thank you to Space Cow, Heidi, Thomas, Doug, Carlito, Samantha, and Sally for the amazing super chats. Thank you to all the veterans and all our new listeners. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Here we go. Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We want to say that we remind you that all of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. 2 minutes can change a life, whether it's a car accident, whether it's something the doctor says, maybe it's even seeing something that isn't supposed to be. That's what happened to Tim Seanor here. If you have missed most of this show, you're definitely going to want to check back on the archives on this one, because this is pretty incredible, where he and his family are vacationing at Bainbridge Island, Washington State, where in that 2 minutes, they literally saw multiple UFOs and what looked to be a portal opening up in the sky. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Having a blast.
Me too, my friend. We were just getting into the emotional side of everything, how it's affected your life and everything like that. I want to get to Sabrina's question here. And she is asking, Tim, has this experience changed your perceptions about things like psychic abilities, channelings, and the possibilities of there being ghosts now that you have witnessed a UFO?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm completely open to any possibility now, without a doubt. And, I think being a little more aware of synchronicities and things like that, and taking advantage of that knowledge now, I think things are all linked. From what I can tell, it seems like everything is somehow connected. And yeah, it has definitely changed my perceptions of the world, because I am far more open to entertain concepts on Bigfoot or ancient astronauts, or ET being on a micro level. I'm looking for ET, but it could be here on a microscopic level and I wouldn't know. So yeah, I'm thinking out of the box now after this.
Okay, so you had mentioned that this has kind of played with you a little bit. It's played with your dreams, family members' dreams, everything like that. I mean, do you think it's because of the I'm going to use the term lightly, PTSD regarding this sighting, or do you think that this craft or whatever it was has embedded itself within you, saying, "Hey, remember me? I'm not going anywhere"?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination there. I definitely have had to deal with this knowledge, but without asking for it or wanting it, which I think is also important, because, I'm still fighting it to an extent. Yeah, it's really tough, because I have crystal clear recollection of a dream. And did it start right that night? Yes, it did. Did I think it was UFOs right that night? No. So the fact that I had these dreams, I wasn't in any stretch of my imagination coming up with what's going on in these dreams. I haven't been exposed to sci-fi on that level. It's way beyond me in this realm. So I don't, coming up with things that I would never come up with in this realm. And it's got me very emotionally connected with it as well, where, if I think deeply on the feeling, I guess, that I had when I was looking into that light, I get this feeling where I could just really get emotional. And I see it in my family members too. So I know there's something to it. I don't just disregard this as PTSD to a UFO experience, because it wasn't a UFO experience to me. So the fact that I'm having this kind of contact, let's not label it UFO or ET, because I don't know if that's what it is. But I'm just trying to line up events and, trying to make sense of it. So I definitely do have the PTSD side of that in just coming to terms with I'm having to come to terms with it, if that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, it's very much different than what we expected, and very much in the opinion of how it affects us emotionally when this stuff happens. We cannot control it. We cannot control the emotion, the fear, the why me. That's the big one, man. The why me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of times I think, I wish that I hadn't really looked up into that light, and I definitely wish that some of my other family members hadn't, because it's incredibly distracting, and it can cause sleep problems for family members. Fortunately, not me, but other family members. Now, keep in mind, I have never told my family about the details of my dreams, but my certain family members will give me details of theirs, and it's lining up exactly with the same place that I have my dreams at. So we're all kind of going to this place and having this experience in our dreams, and then it ends and you have regular sleep, but when you wake up in the morning, you have complete recollection of that dream every day, which is so weird and annoying, but it is what it is.
You can't control it. I mean, this is a part of you.
I have no interaction in these dreams either. I can't make too many conscious choices in it. There's kind of an agenda, and I'm going to just keep it very vague for right now, because I'm still, kind of in research mode, and I don't want to poison the waters with a lot of detail on what I'm going through. But, yeah, it's very specific tactile smells. Like, I bring smells out of it that I'm like trying to compare it to. And one of the smells, I guess, is like a combination of it's like a sickly sweet smell, in part of, like, in an area. Like, so I'll be in an area, like not really a building, but I'll be in an area in my dream state, and there'll be a smell there. And anytime I'm there, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or a week from now, that area will have that same smell, or whatever. So it's kind of like it's very odd, and could it just be a repeating dream? Well, it could. But again, my first degree is in psychology, so you got to know I've really self-diagnosed as far as I can, and talked to other people slightly about it, but not about the contact part, just the dream part. And it's not common at all. So, I know that part, and the fact that it's matching up with family members, and the only thing we have in common is that experience, and that's when it started for all of us. So a lot of things kind of line up.
And I can see this, but I want to take this focus now with you, if you don't mind, into the idea that this is what we've been hearing since 2017 about these Tictacs, about them flying over areas with free will and everything. When you started looking into this after this whole situation and started seeing there was the entire Nimitz incident and other military aspects towards this Tic-Tac type of craft, what went through your mind when you heard about this?
Oh my God, I have photos of that. Because it wasn't really something I was aware of, and I think I'd seen Fravor or somebody. I know Kevin Day is a big part of why, I wanted to talk about the dream portion and the psychological portion, because, I know he suffers from something similar, and people, were talking to him about that. But it impacted me hugely. It was part of the reason I was comfortable talking about it. I wasn't calling it a Tic-Tac back then. I was just calling it a white cigar. And with that had a sparkle, it was originally just a sparkle. Like, I didn't even know that it was a Tic-Tac that I was looking at near the saucer. So I called it a sparkle because of the way it was moving so quickly. And then I called it a white cigar, So, yeah, it changed how I was perceiving it and how I labeled the whole sighting, because I felt that it was relatively enough information that I had that I could call this something similar to what I was seeing in the news as being described as the Tictac. So,
very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. But how did it feel to get that confirmation from those who have allegedly been studying this for decades?
Yeah, that was huge. Absolutely huge. And it made me really glad that I had come out with it. And, it's so hard to do. So hard to do. And talking to you right now even about it is so hard to do. But the fact is that it happened. It happened to these pilots. These things are definitely out there. I mean, I'm still seeing them. And, at some point we can talk about the hitchhiker effect because that's absolutely real. And I'm living it because, I've got more photographs since. Anyways, yeah, man, I kind of got off track there a little bit.
No, that's fine. And that's dandy and everything. But I mean, the idea that you see this thing and it's going on right in front of you, it's affecting you, it's affecting your family, you're not sure. To this day, you're still getting reaction type dreams about this. I hate to bring this up, and I don't mean this as being funny, but it's almost like remember the movie Flight of the Navigator, where
Sure.
the ship was calling the kid?
That.
The ship was calling the kid, and I'm still 30, 40 years later, I'm still blown away by that movie.
Right.
On
right.
how accurate it is to what we're talking about today versus consciousness, UFOs, humans versus UFOs, and everything in between. And if you've never seen Disney's Flight of the Navigator from 1986, do yourself a favor, go online and rent that or buy that movie if you're a UFO fanatic. You will be blown away like I was. Like when I watched it as a kid, I was like, oh, cool. This is awesome. I'd love for this to happen. Now that I'm into the woo, and I know you hate that word, but now that I'm into all this subject and everything, I'm blown away by how accurate that movie is. And if these craft were actually calling you and your members of the family, and I'm hypothesizing here. I'm not saying it's happening, but I'm just hypothesizing. If they are calling you, do you think that maybe there was at any time any type of abduction or other communication or downloads that they were giving you? Because obviously they were there for you to see them.
Right. I guess. I mean, yeah, it was pretty obvious to my family what was going on. And it made itself very apparent to each one of us individually. It left an impact on all of us individually. I think we all left with a different interpretation somehow. For whatever that was. But again, repeat your question for me because I'd like to give you a good, concise answer.
Has this built to further contact with you in these dreams with downloads, potential communication, even abduction? Maybe not with you, but other family members that were there as well. Their story is theirs. I know you're not going to speak for them, but from what you know.
Right. The only thing that we have lingering are these dreams. I don't need to be regressed because I have total clarity. Abduction isn't really part of this story. We never left. We weren't abducted. There could have been like a mental abduction that happened in the flash, when we were looking, and it could have happened like that. I would believe that. I don't think it was a physical abduction if there was anything. There was definitely information at the time, but again, it was more of a feeling that we had than information. And then any information that has happened has come through me just logging everything that has happened in my dreams. But again, I'm not really lending any credence to any of this, other than the fact that it's really interesting. And some of it really lines up and makes sense and answers some big questions, But at the same rate, I have a hard time lending any real credence to it because I can't gauge it. It's not something I can test. It's not something I can prove. And so it's just not something I'm comfortable really talking about or recognizing as real, if that makes any sense. So I don't dive too deeply into that. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just because I don't think it's really happening. I don't think that there was an abduction or anything like that. It wasn't any more interesting than what I described to you, which is still pretty incredible to witness. But I also think that it could have happened to anyone that was there. If there had been a stranger there that wasn't part of my blood family, which, by the way, I'm adopted. So I'm not actually a blood relative to my adopted family. I was born David Powers, and then I became adopted by the Seanors, and they named me Timothy. So that's that. But we all definitely, do have this striking takeaway of a dream, and there's information in there. I mean, we all we're in the same place, but we have a different stuff happening in that place. But we all describe the same place, which is really the important part of it.
Have you seen extraterrestrials?
Not really. In the dreams, I see light, like other lights, and I'm a light.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Tell you that much. But I've never seen aliens in my dreams or in reality or in any way, shape, or form that I'm aware of. No.
Okay. We got about 5 minutes left with you, Tim, tonight.
Cool.
Tim Seanor is our guest. This is a show that is flying on by. I want to ask you the current state of ufology, where there's a lot being said, not much information being given. It looks like we are going to be going into almost a blackout version of UAP reports coming out of Washington, D.C. if the AOI MSG gets its way with everything. I know you've been staying up to date with this, courtesy of Thomas Fessler's disclosure tonight. What's your overall projection and thoughts of what is happening with the UAP story?
Well, I know I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I have high hopes, but I still don't have high expectations, let's say, just because I've seen a history of trying to do anything but disclose, right? So I'm sure if this does happen, they're going to go down kicking and screaming. However, I am seeing a lot of change, and there's a lot of movements happening all at the same time to create transparency, to re-regulate how information is labeled as far as being secret or not secret. I think we're going to see big changes there. I think that we're going to see a much more informed Congress. And I think that we will be starting to see data. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of proof. This year we have at least UAPX has a film coming out, A Tear in the Sky. Extremely excited about that. Even the name A Tear in the Sky sounds like they're talking about portals in the sky. And so obviously if they've managed to capture something that could corroborate my tear in the sky, I mean, that would be incredible. So I have high hopes for this year in particular. I think that we have big things coming. I'm excited. How do you feel?
I want to see more openness. I do. I want to see more openness. I want to see more people talking about it. Look, there are secrets out there that we're not going to know. I don't believe in disclosure. I think disclosure is a ruse. I do believe in confirmation of what is coming. I really do. Okay? And I can sit there and say openly that they're confirming what we already know, but they're not going to open up the UFO Pandora's box, as I've said a number of times on this show. And I really want to see some of the secrets. I don't need to know it all. I don't care if they have body parts at Area 51 or crashed craft, but I do want to know what happened at Roswell. I do want to know what happened in Phoenix. I do want to know if they have made contact and everything like that. I mean, let's just admit that. You can still keep the secrets without giving away the content, or with giving up a little bit of the content. I mean, stop hiding. And yet, I think what we're seeing with this new Gillibrand bill is we're going to go back into the dark ages of UFOs. And that's what concerns me. Now, there's people out there who are going to disagree with me, but I mean, when all of a sudden we start getting, in the next report, a bunch of weather balloons and U.S. military balloons and high-capacity space balloons, this is what has me worried. We can't handle swamp gas. This is way beyond swamp gas. Way beyond. And I think that the public is going to get screwed in all of this. But maybe it's a good thing, because that keeps people like me employed. Maybe they're doing it for me, Tim, and they're doing it for Jimmy Church, and they're doing it for Dave Schrader, and they're doing it for every podcast host out there. Maybe that's what they're doing. They thought of us.
What would we talk about if we didn't have aliens to wonder about?
Well, I'm going to Bigfoot and Dogman. That's where I'm going. If we solve this, I'm going strictly there.
You'd have to go to the next mystery.
No choice. You have no choice. You have to move on. And you know what? It's wonderful that we have so many opportunities in this field, because I'm just very much in love with what we talk about on a nightly basis. And I know you are as well, my friend.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for giving me the space to talk about this really cool sighting, bud. And it's been so much fun talking with you. I've never had this chance for this long before. It's great.
It was wonderful. Tim, thank you so much. I think you're going to stick around here for a bit, because you got nothing planned, and we got some stuff coming up. Coming up next in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. The Swamp Dwellers got another fantastic story out of Utah for us. Then the fedora-wearing John Hudson comes in with the unbiased UFO report. We'll bring Tim's reaction in, and Shirky Poo has the news. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. All right, we're clear. That was fun, man. That was a lot of fun.
You enjoyed it?
That was wonderful. Wonderful.
Great. Yeah, man. It was a lot of fun for me, too. I love talking with you. You've got a great audience, and honestly, every time I think about the experience, it connects me to it again, because I don't think about it unless I, do an interview. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I try to actually separate myself from it as much as I can, because like I said, I've got a family to run, I can't have my head in the stars all the time. So it's hard to find that balance.
I do.
Right?
I just carry them in with me.
I like that.
I just carry them in. In.
Do you get clear skies up there?
Oh,
have you ever seen anything in your skies up there?
I have seen some UFO lights up here. I haven't seen anything anomalous in a couple of years, probably 3 years now. Maybe going on 4. It's like I've been shut down. My area is very hot on UFOs. I mean, just a couple of months ago, there was an orb light hovering over one of the lakes just north of me, about 10, 12 miles north of me. And there's a lot of residences around this, so a lot of people actually saw this. There's a lot of reports of alien abduction around here. There's reports of Sasquatch and Dogman here. Little people. The First Nations are very, very protective of the little people here. This entire area is haunted. Like right behind this wall, if you go like 3/4 of a mile behind me, you will walk right onto the original Gold Rush Trail going up to the Klondike. And literally millions of people have passed through here. The highway to Alaska is just before that strip of the original Gold Rush Trail.
Tons of history.
Huge.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So it is everywhere. Raz says, I want HD 1440 UAP footage, Dave. Where is it, man? It is sitting in a vault in the Pentagon that says do not disturb for 300 years.
You know, I was going to touch on the hitchhiker effect that's happened, and with my family at least, and myself. I mean, I've captured UAP left and right. Unfortunately, it's not like super compelling at this point, but like nothing that I would like shout about, but I'm actually able to capture it. I'm working on getting some better gear so I can actually document it properly.
Right.
But the phenomenon, if you want to call it that, is super active in Oregon. And when I was making that show for PBS here, I was interviewing people from this area. And I mean, we're talking hot spots, you know, where you can go pretty much any time and they're always around. It's just bizarre. Getting it on film, though, is still hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the snow melting and getting back out there. And the snow is starting to melt fast, which is good. That means it's going to warm up here soon. It's been in the plus degrees is here. But
it's been the never-ending winter, you know, and having COVID finally, you know, like lingering, it's such a drag. Having to like, sorry, using the C word, but yeah, man, it just feels like winter lingers forever. I can't wait to get back out.
Oh yeah.
Do you actually do some research and get out there?
You know what? I don't call what I do research. Okay, I'm not a researcher. I don't know how to research. Okay, what I do is I take little tips that I've learned from some very brilliant people, and then I go out looking for me. I don't carry a camera. I don't carry a voice recorder. I'm just there to connect with the phenomena. And whatever they give me, I want to experience. I am very selfish in the field regarding that. And, that may upset some people. That may... no,
not at all.
But for me, it's about learning what happened to me. Originally, this show was supposed to be about, hey, this is what's happened to me. Are there other people out there who are smarter than I am in this field who can give me advice as to what I saw. I've never really found that. So for me, when it comes to researching the phenomena, I do it for myself. I don't do it for anybody else. I don't think I'm good enough to do that.
Well, good enough isn't probably it, because you're having the experiences, so that makes you good enough. And you're Dave Scott, and so, if you come to us with a story, we want to hear it. But here's my thing.
Well, give me a couple seconds here, because we got to return right now.
Sure, take your time.
Hold on.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate you listening in and joining us on a nightly basis. That's always nice to think of, to be honest, that you'd want to spend time with little old Davey here, talking about some weird stuff. Hey, that's what we do here. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, also live on iHeartRadio and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cohogged. Cohog is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where we head into the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller brings us another spooky story.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. It was the summer of 2007, and my best friend and his girlfriend suggested I get a date, and we go to some local hot spots, which are natural hot springs, located deep in a nearby canyon, not too far from where we lived in Utah. Supposedly, these hot spots were excellent, super quick, and easy to get to. Just a short hike from where you would park your car off the main road, running through the canyon. So, it must have been around 7 p.m. that day, when we parked the truck in a Spanish Fork canyon and set off on the trail that led to the natural hot springs, armed with only our swimming suits and towels. I don't know where my friend got his lousy information. It wasn't a quick and easy hike, that's for sure. More like a challenging hike that took over an hour on a very narrow path, where we had to walk single file the entire time, and occasionally over some treacherous spots, where one lousy step would send you cascading down the mountain. It seemed like it would never end, and we'd never get to those hot springs. But after wearing ourselves out and not being adequately prepared, we finally made it. The sun was setting as we finally reached the clearing where somebody dug up the natural pools. It was later than expected, but we figured it would be fun to soak in hot water underneath the stars. We were so deep in the canyon at this point that the stars in the sky were brighter than any other time I've seen them in my life. No light pollution at all. We had probably been there for about 30 minutes and had the entire area to ourselves, just having a great time telling jokes and making each other laugh. The only light was from the stars, and the only sounds were from us. The quiet was almost eerie. Suddenly, we started to hear twigs snapping in every direction. See, there was only one way in and out of the hot springs, though. That super narrow trail that we hiked in on. And that's where we were now hearing the loudest of the noise coming from. Soon, we could make out the outline of a figure in the dark. Someone with a flashlight coming down the trailhead to the collections we were swimming in. I was in a great mood up until this point. Since this person's arrival had surprised us, I yelled out to them once I was confident that they would be able to hear me, to try and break the ice. I didn't want it to be awkward, and partly as a defense mechanism from the nervousness I was feeling suddenly. "Hey, you here to join the party?" Silence. The person keeps walking towards us and doesn't say a word. Immediately, alarm bells are going off in my head. My gut is telling me that something is not right here. I try to ignore how I'm feeling and joke to our group about the person being a weirdo for not answering. But now everyone is on edge. As the person gets closer, we can start to make out more details of this guy. It's a man, above average size, dressed head to toe in black. This guy was wearing a hoodie and long pants in the middle of summer in Utah. Who does that? We noticed he's also wearing a black backpack before he gets to the clearing and turns off his flashlight. He continues walking towards us, though. Now, there are a half dozen hot spots scattered around this clearing. There is no one else around except us. He has his pick of any of them to swim in. But no, he walked directly towards ours and sits down about 6 feet away from us where we were soaking. My friend has a lantern, so he hops up to the side of the pool and grabs it and turns it on. Something strange is that it seemed like the stranger was doing something weird before we turned on the lantern. He was ruffling through his bag, looking for something. One of us says something to him, and once again we get no response. My friend temporarily turns off the lantern, I assume because it's on low battery, and he doesn't want to wear it out. But once the light is out, the stranger in black unzips his backpack again and starts frantically looking through it. My friend immediately turns the lantern back on. The stranger quickly stops, zips the bag back up, and is acting like nothing is happening. My friend notices the stranger appears to be Hispanic, and she greets him in Spanish, which catches the stranger off guard, and he mumbles a response. My friend asks how he is doing, and what he is up to tonight. Did he come for a swim? At least that's what I assume from his tone. I don't speak Spanish very well, so I don't know exactly what the stranger's responses were, but they were very brief and not very friendly sounding. After asking a few more questions to the guy, my friend turns to me and our dates in the pool and says very quietly, but deadly seriously, "We need to go right now." Immediately we start getting out of the pool and drying off with our towels. The stranger asked my friend a question in Spanish, something like, "Oh, where are you guys going so quickly?" And while I surmise my friend is playing it off very calmly and like it's no big deal, I know he definitely felt differently. Then, again, he turns to us and says, "We're getting our things together and putting on our shoes. Maybe not going as fast as we could. We don't have time. Grab your stuff, we're going now." We don't ask questions. We grab our things and start practically running towards the trailhead as a group. As we look back, we see the stranger in black is getting his things together, getting up and starting to follow us. At this point, there is no illusion of what is happening. This guy has bad intentions and is chasing after us on this narrow trail all the way back to our vehicle. We know we have got an hour or more ahead of us until we are back to the safety of our car, and we don't have anything to defend ourselves with at all. We're still soaking wet. We've got a head start on him, which is a big help. I took the lantern and took the lead of the group. We got into a single file line and locked hands with each other, knowing that we would need it to keep moving as fast as we possibly could, but not too quickly, or we could fall to our deaths. The girls were behind me, with my friend at the back, who was giving us updates of where the stranger in black was doing, and telling us to move faster. He picked up the most prominent, the sharpest rock he could find, and prepared to kill this guy if he had to. I'm sure you can imagine the emotions that were running through all of us at the time. Obviously nobody wanted to hurt anybody. The girls were sobbing, trying to keep pace with me up front. I'm yelling back, "Watch out for this, watch out for that," and we're making our way into the darkness as fast as we can. I'm telling myself to stay calm, so I don't scare the girls any more than they already are. While I'm also feeling an overwhelming sense of dread that I don't really know how to handle. I don't want to die this young. I'm only 19 years old. After what feels like an eternity.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. and new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
We finally see the main canyon road in our truck. We all run towards it as my friend unlocks it. We all get inside and we're all in shock at this point, and just start shaking uncontrollably. I tell my friend to start the car and start driving so we can get the hell out of here and never come back. I ask my friend, the one who is speaking Spanish to the stranger, "Why did you tell us to get out of there so quickly?" My friend answered that he purposely had been turning the lantern on and off because he noticed, when he did, the stranger was searching in his bag for something. And when it came back on, the stranger closed it up fast and acted like he hadn't been looking for something. That was when he tried speaking in Spanish to get a feel for what was going on with the guy. My friend said that he was asking the stranger some questions in Spanish like, "Where are your friends?" And the stranger answered, "No friends," and other short answers to basic questions that gave my friend the absolute creeps. Once the stranger asked my friend something about the girls who were with us, that was when he told us we need to get out of there. He was able to see the stranger following us almost the entire time, but dropped off towards the end when he couldn't keep pace with us. So, what was the stranger doing in the middle of the dark canyon by himself, dressed in all black? What did he have in his bag that he was trying to get to, that he didn't want us to see? And what would have happened to us if he had caught up to our group on the trail that night? I'd hate to find out.
And we thank our resident swamp dweller for another great edition of Swamped Out Radio here on the Mighty SOR. And, of course, you can always check out Swamp Dweller's channel on YouTube. He's got thousands of stories. Go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, Swamp Dweller Reads on YouTube, and hit subscribe. I do. I listen to it every night. Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another great story. Here we go. It's time to bring in the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO report. John putting on his Barry Gibb look as we speak. Very nice, John. Very, very nice. Appreciate that. We got Tim Seanor sticking around with us tonight too, John.
What's up, bud?
How's it going?
Man, nice to meet you in a way, dude. And man, hats off to you. That I know that stuff is not easy to share. So thank you for doing so.
Thanks for that, bud. Yeah, it was fun to talk about. Actually, I had a great time.
No, it was great to listen to, man. You guys had it was. I think it was a lot of fun for all of us.
It very much was.
That's great.
That's a good comment there, Johnny boy. All right, USOs kicking off the unbiased UFO report. Unidentified submerged objects. Let's head into the oceans where the megalodon lives, the super sharks, the bull sharks, great white sharks, leopard sharks, and every type of shark that wants to eat people. John, take it away. What happened?
Yeah, actually, I just made that one up. I like the way USO sounds. No, I'm kidding. It was actually very funny because I actually had a friend of mine who's a top-notch physicist and doing some very fascinating research. Actually reached out to me yesterday because he was going to be going to a meeting talking to some people about USOs and was trying to ask me information about it. So it was completely timely that this came out. And what's really interesting about this little quote, which I'll read first, is who endorsed it. So first, we have a message from Ross Coulthart, who you all know and love, and if you don't, he is the lovely correspondent from Australia that wrote the fantastic book. So he says, today the former head of the French spy agency DGSE has said UAPs were detected moving underwater at the speed of sound. That is equivalent to 1 mile in 4.69 seconds. There is a YouTube link to part of the interview that includes Bryce Zabel and he is bringing some aspects to the story as well. And what you had is you had Ross making that comment on the 17th, and then you had Luis Elizondo basically resending that out to a bunch of people with an additional comment, "Amen, Ross." And I got to admit, like, there's almost no substance to what I'm about to say, but coming from Lou Elizondo in the context of the conversation, I'm kind of shocked he said what he said. "Amen, Ross. Thank you for this provocative statement. People will be blown away when they finally find out the true performance capabilities of these trans-medium technologies." Now, there's nothing to hang your hat on in that statement, but clearly he was trying to throw as many virtual bones as he could to as many people as he could. Why is he doing that? I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's all for very, very good reasons. But my point is that this is there's a lot of carrots in this statement.
Okay, so why should we be focusing on the waterways with USOs?
Oh, bother. Where to begin? Honestly, Dave, you could go at that from so many different angles. You can look at it from the statistics of how many of them come out of the water and how many of them are seen above the ocean and coming out and going back into the ocean. You could look at it from anecdotal reports from people. You could also look at it from terms of proximity of crash sites, proximity of sightings, proximity of military events. You can look at it in terms of military operations, and then how I like to look at it is in terms of possible energy supply. Although another very good angle is to look at the hidden nature of the ocean and how easy it would be to actually have large installations down there without anyone noticing, which is certainly a factor. But for me, it's the fact that if you have a species, assuming that this is a physical species that travels a distance, and that is an assumption by all means, they will have some sort of a very compact fuel source. The most compact fuel source we know of that the universe creates, the universe does this, we don't, is the sun. So to think that the ocean would become a harvesting point for them from a deuterium point of view, or basically heavy water, being able to have a place where you can hide and you can actually possibly replenish your engines over a very slow period of time so no one notices. I mean, that's to me, like, if you didn't go into the ocean, you'd be seen as incompetent.
Maybe the ocean is a fuel source.
Sure it is. It's going to be for us someday. 3% of that ocean is the good stuff.
Well, I mean, the big thing is, like, with Luis Elizondo tweeting out about this and supporting work, it really goes to show that there is hard work being done from those proper journalists who are covering this field of ufology. I mean, we complain all the time about the mainstream media not picking it up. Sure, Ross Coulthart may be a massive George Knapp type name, Walter Cronkite type name in Australia, but it is going to get picked up over here eventually. And the fact is, as long as we're talking, as long as that information is flowing, as long as sources are giving some information up, there is still a little bit more than just breadcrumbs falling on the ground.
Yeah, well, and there's also a psychological aspect of this as well, because I've been in some very large groups where it's very disorganized. And then once you get to a point where you have people that maybe could be working together but aren't for whatever reason, right? Just whatever reason. And they start noticing each other's work, and they start propping up each other's work, and they start, when it's good, they start calling out each other. You see this kind of a bunch of people, like, who made it to mountaintops, noticing there's someone else on a mountaintop calling over, going, "Hey, how'd you do on that climb right there?" Right? Like, and there's this, and the thing is that is a sign of a very healthy organization that has people in it that feel good about the organization and want to see the organization grow in a healthy way and have pride in that organization. And the fact that Elizondo and some of these people are starting to do this, where they just start reaching over and just kind of, to me, it's a very interesting psychological sign.
Very much. Tim, you want to weigh in here?
I think the Ross Coulthart drop was huge. That's a pretty big information drop in my personal opinion, and demonstrating again the fact that this phenomenon is not limited by anything. It can go anywhere. I think speaks to the volumes to the fact that people like Luis Elizondo have been saying for a while that this phenomenon is everywhere. And I think even history will show that these transmedium objects have been going into volcanoes, into water, into mountainsides, and all over the place. So we can only assume that they'll be in the bottom of our oceans as well.
Well, and that's the important point to focus on is that, if you really look at some of the hypotheses as to how these systems are working, if you look at what I would consider to be one of the more pragmatic explanations for it, which is a sort of, for lack of a better term, a warp field, a displacement field of some sort, right? You can kind of see how, a lot of this stuff, ends up kind of dovetailing together. It's kind of interesting to me the way it's playing out.
All right, let's move on to topic number 2 here, John, because we got a great unbiased UFO report going on tonight. And your scientific crush, Gary Nolan, making news again. What do you got for us? We got 3 minutes here.
Be still my beating heart. Oh no! I need a whole hour for Gary.
You need a whole 24 hours for Gary.
So you got to listen to the message. But basically, what it is it's Gary talking to I believe it was Elizondo and Cahill, I think, if I remember correctly. And he's basically talking about he's imagining, right? He's basically allowing his non-scientific mind to speculate on what the possibilities are. And what he speculates about is the fact that because of the potentially quantum nature of many of our biological systems, because of what we're learning about how we all work now, to assume that there aren't adjacent fields that we might have some ability to interact with or gain information from or share information with, he just considers it kind of illogical, right? And so to me, it was very interesting because he was really kind of offering an out in a way for explaining why current science can't really get their hands around this very well, And to me, it was very, very interesting. But it was also an incredibly thought-provoking, statement for Gary to make. And like I said, he doesn't speculate very often. So whatever he does, it's fun.
Okay, so what's he speculating on?
What he's basically speculating on is what aren't we seeing? What is the nature of what we aren't seeing? And why is it that we might not be seeing it? And basically talking about the fact that because of the fact that we now have this awareness of how some of the systems in our own body appear to work. And because we know that those systems have the ability to perform certain near and even far field activities based on field access and so forth, that no one should discount the possibility that there are other fields, that there are other things that we just haven't been able to detect yet that are adjacent to us in some way, that our brains do interact with either in a light or heavy way. And that might explain some of what we're seeing. And so it's speculation at its finest, but it's speculation by someone who doesn't normally speculate. And so, it's fun to listen to.
Very fun to listen to. We got about 30 seconds. Gary Nolan, once again, is very hot on the idea that there are phenomena happening around the world. And I'm very curious if you think, going into the next half hour here, if you think that Gary will be breaking some major news here as 2022 moves forward.
Well, I would say it a different way. I would say that if there is news that falls into his domain, abso-freaking-lutely. Because I think it's pretty safe to say that he's become very, very attached to Jacques Vallée.
All right, the fedora-wearing John Hudson and special guest Tim Seanor. We continue the unbiased UFO report when we return on Spaced Out Radio for the final half hour, right after this.
Aw, Gary blocked you, Gary? I didn't know that.
What are you doing there, John? Speaking during the music.
Hanging out. Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw the post. I apologize. Yeah. No, I just saw a post from a good friend. Just felt bad. I apologize.
Lyle Myers, welcome to SOR Chat. Luke 99, good to see you. By the way, Luis Elizondo will be on this show April 28th. April 28th. Put it on your calendar.
How do you know it's really him?
Well, I don't know. I don't know anymore since he shaved the chin hair and went with the full beard.
You have to assume that someone in his role that he used to have, at one point or another, had a body double, and that person's probably unemployed at this point. So, just saying. See, that's the kind of I got to be honest. That is the kind of crap that goes on that people actually take for fact and then actually start building hypotheses on, and that's where it starts. I mean, it sucks because it's so much fun to do, but when people start using it as a leap off point, it's freaking terrifying.
You're so right. You're so right. Conspiracy is fun to dabble in, but I wouldn't want to live there.
No, it's great in the shallow end. It's really fun in the shallow end. It's tremendous fun in the shallow end. It's even sometimes fun to look into the deep end and go, "Wow, look at that!"
Yeah, I start getting really existential and questioning whether I'm even here, and then there's problems. I just can't.
Yes.
Do I?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
But no, I'm curious for you, because if I remember correctly, so this all started in 2019 for you. Is that correct?
That's right.
Ballpark. Yeah. So we're talking I should know this, but what was it, 3? No, it's got to be more than 3 years. No, it has been 3 years. Okay, 3 years. So in that time period, has how you feel about death changed?
No.
Not at all?
No. There's no real link to death per se.
No. It's totally fine. Now, what about how heavy have you been pulled into consciousness type studies?
So there's a guy named Terry Hall in the chat here, and he's kind of been, like I said, my UFO mentor, UFO doctor. He lives out here in Oregon, and he kind of turned me on to that aspect of things.
Okay, so you've looked into it and you've researched a bit. So the only reason I'm asking these questions is, and there's no right or wrong answers, is I have a hypothesis that I'm playing with, that essentially there's a story arc that becomes common, and that in certain periods of the story arc we all end up going to similar topics and coming to kind of similar realizations that we then have to carry with us on to the next phase. And one of my hypotheses is that everyone gets dragged into consciousness at some point. Another hypothesis is that everyone except for Dave lose their fear of death.
Yeah, no, I'm not
lose the fear of death. I never had a fear of death to start.
Well, then you're
it hasn't changed at all.
Then you're good.
I'm totally at peace with that. But that's interesting. Interesting connection.
And the thing is that for me, these connections, the ones that I remember, are the ones that also have a personal attribute to them, right? And me, like everyone else, like I got into this field for physics. I was actually taking physics at Stanford at the time when I started getting back into it. Was all about the physics, right?
Right.
And then Grant came, and Grant dragged me down this horrible rabbit hole of consciousness. And next thing I know, I'm learning about freaking like NDEs and mediums and ectoplasm and like all this creepy stuff. But you start seeing patterns, and you start seeing good researchers doing good stuff, and you're like,
right. Well, these are intellectuals. These are deep thinkers. and they're able to see beyond what's right in front of their face. And so when they're confronted by something that could have a link, they follow it 100% to, to discover everything. And I think that that's necessary in a field like this. However, I personally, I understand that there is probably a connection with consciousness. And, I'm not sure. I think it's potentially totally human created. You know what I mean? Like we've just created that to kind of box it, if you will.
Right.
In a way,
guys,
I
got to cut you off right there because we got to come back here. Thank you to the super chatters. And here we go with the final half hour. Stick around for the after show after we get done here. Stay tuned. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the unbiased UFO report. We have the fedora-wearing John Hudson. Our guest of the evening, Tim Seanor, continues to be with us. And John, I know we're going to continue on with Gary Nolan here for just a moment or two, but, at first here, Gary Nolan to me, and I've said this before a couple weeks ago when we were talking to him, right now, in my opinion, is one of the most important people we should be following if you have any interest in the science behind UFOs and ET contact.
Whether he wants to be or not. Yes, I agree with you.
I think he wants to. He's not.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
I think a surprising amount of it is. Yeah, I agree with you. I think a surprising amount of it is.
He is not letting it break his study. He's not letting it go to his head. He's very focused regarding it. Okay, but the fact that he was just on Martin Willis's podcast, I believe, with Lou Elizondo, I mean, I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to catch any of that or not, but I mean, the fact is, these bigwigs now, they seem to be starting to team up a little bit on these different shows and trying to mutually get these messages out. Have you noticed that recently as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's been so...
Bring your microphone up, John.
Sorry. That is something that I think has just been so nice to see because I'm someone that tends to look at things from multiple points of view, and one of the things I like to look at is the relative health of an organism, a social organism. And to me, one of the best signs of it is when you start seeing people feeling good enough and strong enough and confident enough in their own research, they start looking across the water and noticing what other people are doing and start calling out the stuff they like and calling out the stuff that they believe in and helping to advertise and spread the word about things that they endorse and so forth. And to me, it's an incredibly healthy sign. It's really good. It's a good indication for an organization.
All right, Tim, do you have any thoughts on how a lot of these gentlemen now who are in the higher echelons of UFO research seem to be teaming up to go on these podcasts now for multiple messages at once?
And thank goodness they are, because, they obviously are working together. They're able to corroborate each other's work. They're demonstrating their schedule and talking about their plan. It sounds like a team on a mission, collaborating scientists with people in government, with lawyers. You're covering all bases. And so the fact that they're taking time out of their schedules to come on our show, and if they have to come in groups or singular, however they're coming out and talking to us on any show, I think is amazing. Keeping us in the loop, making us feel like we're part of disclosure, teaching us how to become an advocate towards this. I think it's part of their mission of disclosure and transparency to start it out in the grassroots ways that we're seeing them do it right now. I think it's a sign of things to come. I think it's just the beginning, and I think we can expect a lot more. We're going to get pages and pages of information at some point. You're going to be sick of reading data. I look forward to that. But I think that's coming.
I think it's coming too. All right, let's get to the final topic of the night. Daniel Sheehan shares an interesting story, John.
Yeah. So kind of actually, once again, on this whole topic, what we really had this week is we had a whole bunch of clips from different interviews being shared on Twitter, and they were very carefully clipped clips that each kind of illustrated an interesting topic, and some of them were a little more thought-provoking and requiring than I expected, like Mr. Sheehan. So Mr. Sheehan gave the kind of story that you would typically hear from like your grandfather sitting on a porch, maybe involving, some frogs or something. And basically it's a really interesting story, but to kind of sum up the story, what the story is about is that when you find a creature that you know nothing about, you might believe that you're doing something to help them. And it might appear completely obvious to everyone in your species that is the right way to help them. But if you don't actually know how they work, you could be harming them in ways that don't just harm, one aspect of them, basically destroy their entire lives, right? And that was basically the gist of the story. And to me, it was it was kind of a weird thing for Danny Sheehan to be talking about, because like, why would you be telling that story unless you were fearful that there were some other species that might make that mistake with us?
Well, Daniel Sheehan has been let in on a lot of information that he is just itching to get out, but unfortunately, due to lawyer...
Like Mach 12 planes.
Yeah, due to lawyer and
filibustering.
Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Client... privilege. Yeah, the privileges, the silence that goes along with that. Daniel has been very, very careful with what he words and what he releases. Do you think that maybe, just maybe, Elizondo and others whom he is representing are allowing him to maybe break out a little pieces of information because he knows what he can and cannot say, and he won't break that attorney-client privilege?
Yeah, but honestly, I've heard Danny Sheehan talk many times, and basically what he always talks about is the fact that whenever he meets with anybody, no matter who they are, he makes it very, very clear to them that absolutely anything that they show to him will go public. Like, he makes that very clear, even when to do so is completely out of context and questionably legal. He will say that, right? He says that all the time. Now, there's a ton of things that Elizondo can't say directly to Sheehan because it would be client privilege, and if it didn't endanger Elizondo, it just gets complicated, right? But if Elizondo went around with Sheehan and introduced him and got all the right people to say to Sheehan what Elizondo can't, Now he can protect what he's heard from Elizondo, and he can sing like a jaybird about every other thing he hears.
Very true. Very true.
And that's, I mean, look about that Mach 12 plane that he talked about. Like that whole presentation should have been cut off midstream, and Danny should have just vanished off the face of the earth. Like, just poof, nothing happened. I don't get it.
No, I get that. I get that. But, and I know Danny is somebody who wants full-on disclosure. But he also knows a lot of information that he hasn't passed through. He can make the Grant Cameron statement all he wants, that if you say it to me, it's going public. But in the end, attorney-client privilege still has a lot of rules that he has to follow.
Yeah, no. But that was the distinction I'm making. Is that that's what he says to everyone that he meets with on the behalf of his clients. He never says that to his clients, right? It's always the people that he's talking to on behalf of his clients. So whenever he meets with anyone with his client, he tells that person, anything you share with me, in this case, for my client, I'm going to go public with. Right? That's what I mean, he doesn't do it to the clients themselves.
Tim, what's your thoughts?
I love Danny's analogies that he makes in his discussions, and I always interpret them a little bit differently. But I must say, in this last one, my interpretation was that we're operating on a certain physics, and let's call that a language. They're operating on a entirely different physics, and let's call that an entirely different language. So for us to even start interpreting or having a dialogue, we need to start rethinking this. We can't just be taking down random UAPs, because what's the message we're delivering with that was kind of my interpretation. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I think you might be right. I hope you're wrong, just because I don't really agree with the premise in that, I can talk to a lot of people about far simpler concepts without ever having to be ensured that they understand three-dimensional physics. You know what I mean? It's you especially if the upper party has an interest in communicating, right? So to me, it's just, I think what you said could very likely be an accurate interpretation of what he said. I'm just saying I hope not, just because I don't agree with it. That's all.
That's very interesting. What do you think Danny is going to do here if the AOI MSG gets its way and completely shuts down any more videos or information or public talk about UFOs outside of the report that is supposed to come every 6 months, if it's not delayed?
Well, honestly, that taps into the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight, which got bumped out here enough time, and that is that Elizondo finally, and I'm really sorry they didn't cover this earlier because I wanted to, but I couldn't find the information. He finally talked about amnesty. Okay, and which I mean, I can go back. I've been asking for amnesty for like 7-8 years. I've always believed this. It was the only way. It was the only way forward was amnesty. And what he's talking about is not full amnesty. I like his method better. What he's talking about is a temporary amnesty, a 6-month amnesty that says, hey, for the next 6 months, anyone that knows anything is completely legally free from all NDAs, from all vows, from all everything, right? But if that 6 months passes, and on the trail for information, we discover that you were withholding information and you did not take advantage of that 6-month window, you will be prosecuted. I thought it was a really interesting approach to it. And I would argue that if that picks up the steam that I expect it to, that is what you're going to see Danny Sheehan focused on.
That is actually quite brazen, considering the fact that Elizondo is still a government contractor and talking about these subjects with Congress people and senators.
Yeah, the challenge is that when, even when you are a wholly owned contractor of the U.S. government, meaning that you are not paid through an intermediate and you're being paid, which I don't even know I'm sure they do it with somebody. It's still different than being like an internal like employee, right? And so I don't know. The reason why I make that point is to say that for Elizondo to be working for a defense contractor that basically holds his tickets for the government, he's not as beholden to the government as he was before. He has potentially a much longer leash because of the fact that there's an intermediate company between him and the government.
Tim, what's your thoughts?
Well, if all else fails with AOI MSG, it's pretty clear Danny plans on attacking how these reports are being classified. He's very clear in stating that the current security state apparatus wants to keep this stuff secret, and that the way it's currently set up, it's violating internal standards for classification, and it violates the rights of the people in Congress that have a right to that information. And it's illegal to have it classified in this form, period.
And he's right that he's not overextending that. I mean, he might be exaggerating aspects of it, but fundamentally, he is dead on. You look at the entire nature, the entire meaning that drives the entire classification system. We've tread far off the trail. Probably for good reasons, to be honest with you, but it doesn't change the fact that we've tread pretty far off the trail.
Harking the silence of the Air Force.
But I will say that I think, to the point that you just brought up, the reason why Danny Sheehan is so the reason why Danny Sheehan is so valuable is because he takes these very, for the most part, unpredictable approaches to the problem, right? Him attacking it from the point of view of how Elizondo was treated with his emails, him looking at what you just brought up, him looking at amnesty, right? He doesn't attack them head on. He looks for auxiliary issues that could have as much impact on the system, and he attacks those. It's a very, very clever strategic approach, and it's awesome to see in someone in his role, and I think that's what makes him somewhat unique.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to get you to say goodnight right there. I know you're going to stick with us for the after-hours show once we are done the radio side of things, but we are going to hit the news here on Spaced Out Radio. Shirky Poo's got us all prepared. All right. Shirky Poo always gets us ready for the news each and every night here on Spaced Out Radio. Starting with a little breaking news. The first man in space, Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, has been stripped of his honors allegedly by the Space Foundation, which censored his name in light of current world events. The organization, which runs its annual Space Symposium conference in Colorado Springs, sees attendance of top-level representatives from the international space community, including 160 space companies, 100 speakers, and thousands of participants. In a now-deleted note highlighted by Futurism, the Space Foundation saw that it was removing Yuri Gagarin's name from its annual Yuri's Night and replacing it with a celebration of space. Discover what's next at the conference. The focus of this being fundraising events remains the same, to celebrate human achievements in space, but because of what's happening politically, they are now washing their hands of the major accomplishments of Gagarin during his time in being the first man up above the Earth. You know, I don't usually put commentary into this because it's not my place, and I am Ukrainian by heritage. I don't like this. Okay, this dude did something phenomenal 60 years ago. He's not to be punished because of this. This isn't a Russian thing, okay? This is a humanity thing. Put his name back up there. Don't be a bunch of jerks. Okay, yes, it's a bad situation. Yes, we want the Russians out of Ukraine. But this is just bullying tactics for the sake of saying, hey, we did something too. Look what we did. There's a word for that I can't use on the air. It starts with A, ends with holes. Okay, that's what this is. It's an A blank hole type move. It really is. Moving on, let's get to some time travel here. A self-proclaimed time traveler has made a number of claims about what will happen later this year, including the return of a dead celebrity. Yeah, TikTok user, Real TikTok Time Traveler, has shared numerous videos claiming to reveal what the world has got in store for us. In one recent upload, he shared some big events set to happen. The clip explains, some people don't believe I'm a real time traveler, so here are some pretty big events that will happen in 2022. 17 June signs one of the biggest ocean creatures to date found in the Pacific Ocean. 16th of September, a very popular musician will come out and admit he faked his own death. By the end of the year, robots would have taken up to 20% more jobs, replacing humans. Perhaps understandably, the time traveler's fellow TikTok users were not convinced, with some saying he made similar predictions last year and then deleted the clips when they turned out to be false. One person wrote, "Last time this happened, the date came and they deleted the video." Another commented, "I wrote down all of your predictions last year, and the one where it was the worst hurricane in history would happen in September 2021, it never happened." A third wrote, "You want people to believe? What is the temperature in Boston at 4:55 tomorrow?" While another person asked, "What's going to happen when those dates come?" and nothing happens. Look, every time traveler has a really, really good excuse. They don't know if it's on this timeline or a different timeline. Makes you think, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, we got another one of them challenges. The Orbeez Challenge is causing harm in parts of Georgia and Florida. First Tide Pods, then the Lip Challenge, then Cinnamon Challenge, now it's Orbeez. The latest viral social media trend is gaining traction on TikTok and has police across the U.S. warning their communities about potential dangers, like the viral challenges before it, saying people are getting hurt due to Orbeez. Yep, in Florida, people are being influenced to shoot the soft gel Orbeez balls at citizens in a gel ball gun or an airsoft gun. TikTok posts that hashtag Orbeez Challenge show people playing with the small gel balls, but in other posts, people are sharing themselves gunning down people with the deadly Orbeez. The company, by the way, says it's unaware of the negative turn from the viral trend, and people should really not do it, because Orbeez are designed for educational, creative, and sensory play, and not intended to be used as projectiles or inserted into mechanisms. How do you ruin Orbeez? They're innocent. They're fun. I would love to dive into a pool of them. I really would. Let's keep Orbeez on the innocent list and not the murderous rampage that we are now going on thanks to TikTok. Thank you to everybody who participated in this show. Shirky Poo for the news, John for the UFO report, Swamp Dweller for the great story again, and our guest, Tim Seanor, for hanging out all night long. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in, at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.